I couldn't start that journey without going back to where I was born, in the French Alps. That's the place where it all started for me. And I would like to take you a bit in the journey that what the French Alps meant for me. This is a picture that was taken a few months ago in June. That's a 10,000 feet thing that I skipped down with a friend. Before riding it down, we went up. That was pretty technical. And when we arrived at the summit, we were blessed, as you can see here, with the starting of clouds coming up to us. So that's what the summit looked like. And I would like to stop on this image for a few minutes for two reasons. Two reasons because that relates to two defining points of my personal journey. One is, indeed, as Jackie said, when I was not even 10 years old, I was skiing in a place like this. I was alone, that was in the morning. And I skied probably as fast as I walked. I was born in the Alps and raised in a small village. So skiing was part of myself. And that morning, there was an incredible light, a ray of light of sun coming on the crystals of snow that sort of irradiated an incredible light. And the feeling I had, the sensation I had very deeply into myself was that I was connected to the rest of the universe. Suddenly, I was not even 10 years old. And that connection was beyond space, was beyond time. It was something absolutely unbelievable. That feeling is deeply rooted in myself. That feeling is part of my cell memory, so that when I have to, I can reconnect inside myself anytime with this place. I can say this place lives within me and I live in this place. And I thought I had to share that with you because without it, I think that my life would be different today. The other reason I have to spend some time with you 10,000 feet there is because this picture is probably an easier way for me to talk about something I haven't discussed in public, which is I had a brother, very close in age to me, and he was diagnosed when I was 19, schizophrenic. That broke something in me because we were so close. And this image is a nice, I think, way of talking about him because schizophrenia is about blurred frontiers. It's about not knowing exactly where the limits are. It's about not knowing whether you're part of somebody else or somebody else is part of you. You're connected to the universe, but in a way where your own identity is lost. And I think if you look at this picture, it's quite hard to see exactly where is the limit. Is the limit between the white and the blue, which is a very dangerous limit because then you just fall, or is the limit really between snow and air, which are both white and blue? And this is a very thin limit. That very thin limit is where my brother took me for a long period of time. He died a few years, 3 years ago, and he shaped my life. My entire life was shaped by his pathology. Family decisions, personal decisions, business decisions. He would call me every day, even when I was on the other side of the planet. Sometimes he would just leave me a message on my voicemail because he finished his life in our village, back to our village, working in a farm with our friends. And he would take a nap in the afternoon, very close to the watersheds in the mountains. And he would sometimes just called me, just put the phone to the watershed just for me to be able to listen to that song. And that, not even 30 seconds every day, was connecting me to what was another part of the real life. Beyond the corporate jets, beyond the government, beyond the battles, beyond the business, beyond philanthropy and whatever. And so I think this has been an absolutely defining person for me in my life. He also took me into an incredible amount of violence through his pathology. And I had to make, when I was only 22, I think, a very difficult decision for me. And I know many people have gone through many more difficult decisions now. I know that. But when I was that age, that was a very difficult decision. It was middle of the night, and I had the choice between protecting my very early young sister. She was 6 years old, or my brother. And I had to choose, and I chose my brother. She survived, but the image of her being alone that night when I walked away from her to go and get my brother remains very clearly in my memory. And something got broken that day. And something probably that related to the quench for justice, which is, I think went from these people, came from these experiences way deeper than who I am. It's simply that drove me, and that drove me to some limits, and sometimes beyond my own limits. I started with Bain & Company, then moved into private equity and investment banking. That tested my moral limits. It took me 3 to 4 years. My career progressed very quickly. I wrote the first book when I was 25, which basically was a complex amount of thoughts and reflections on the role of business in society, the role of individuals as part of a collective effort, and what is essential, what is important, and how we write about what I was doing every day, which was advising big mergers and acquisitions, where essentially I saw more money, power, egos, fears than anything else. I moved to Danone to join Franck Ribou, my current chairman. He was very young. He was less than 40 when he was appointed by his father as the chairman of the company. And I had a discussion with him, and I thought that he was going to be iconoclastic enough for us to build a different company. So I joined Danone, and some of what I just said about violence took me to incredible places. And I'll share that with you just for a minute, because I got nearly killed by this one. I ran Asia Pacific out of Shanghai for 3 years, and we got into a conflict with a business partner in China, which was so big that it overwhelmed us to the point where this was publicly or highly public, I would say, profile. Head of states were part of that. Hu Jintao, the president of China, and Nicolas Sarkozy at that time, president of France. And we had all the pressure on our shoulders trying to solve this issue. That was a huge issue from a justice standpoint for me, because we had signed contracts, and our partner just basically stole the company away from us. There were articles in the Wall Street Journal that you see here. We went to the point where I had to make a decision I was in Shanghai, in Beijing, and in the middle of August, I had to make the decision of actually going to justice against the Minister of Commerce of China in a Beijing court. For whatever reason, we won that case. But I can tell you, it nearly killed me. I lost 7 kilos in 6 months of battle. At the end of the day, we lost the battle, so that guy instantly became the richest Chinese on earth. Zhong Qinyu, he's still the #1 Chinese in any Forbes, Fortune, whatever magazine. And I felt that was without money. my fight was a failure. I had to live with bodyguards. I had to, that was a very complex story. 2 books actually have been written on this in China. The reason I survived was, again, because of that. I was able, in the worst of these battles, to come back, close my eyes, breath from that very deep place in the French Alps, where I was myself, where I was safe inside myself, to be able to address the challenges that I had to address as a business person. I had to make also tough decisions there because I had a team with me. We had 500 people in total working on that battle, just in China. So they were taking some physical risks as well. And to what point do you accept to confront and to go into violence to solve a problem? Who is wrong and who is right? These were very blurred limits in the Chinese context. I also survived and decided that I would go on because I wanted to change the way we were working. That was my mandate when I joined the company and discussed with our chairman. And I got inspired by a number of people during this period. That's my daughter. She was 15 in Accra in Ghana, and she was an inspiration to me. That guy is a guy from Ghana. He was in Mexico. He's now running our fund, Danone Communities. Emmanuel Faber, a French guy. He is the minister or the high commissioner against of poverty alleviation in France. Very inspiring guy. I got inspired by those people who are working at the borders of things, who are challenging the conventional limits that we put to ourselves because we think that we are in a system and that's how the system works and we can't change the system and that is life. And Martin Hirsch here has been challenging the system in France for many years. Miora from Madagascar, she's now the Danone Communities community manager, highly inspiring social entrepreneur who decided to join our own adventure. Pierre Rabi, he's a Nigerian, went from desert to the coast and then to France, started agroecology, went back to Maghreb, and he's now advising North African governments on how to deal with agroecology and change the way the natural ecosystems in Morocco, in Algeria, and Tunisia are working. Chico Whitaker, 74 years old, Brazilian guy. He was, I think, the youngest minister in a very, very old or long time ago government. He was Minister of Justice in Brazil. He started the anti-globalization movement in Porto Alegre. He invited me to the World Social Forum in 2009. So I was quite interesting because Mohamed Yunus was with Franck Ribou, my chairman, in Davos. And I was attending exactly the same moment, the World Social Forum. And it was great that we were exchanging SMS together. And I think probably we were the only guys exchanging SMS between Davos and the World Social Forum. So Chico has been an incredible source of inspiration for me, for the Danone managers. I brought him into the multinational company. That was the first time ever he would agree to enter into one of these large companies. Again, people that are working in challenging conventional wisdom. Esther Duflo, a good friend, a theorist with a dream, that is currently working with us. And Mohamed Yunus, the theorist that had a dream and that had such a huge achievement. He is the one responsible for changing the corporate life of Danone. When we met in 2005, it was an incredible moment. I just wanted to share with you, probably you can't even read that. It says Daniel Carasso, Mohamed Yunus, and Emmanuel Faber. We were like in a gala dinner like this. And these are the little, board things that you have here, which is a paper thing with your name. There was a big fiesta. That was a Danone Managers Fiesta. We were in the Evian Resort. Danone owns the Evian brand. And that was our annual retreat for top management. We were like 200 or 300 people. We had invited Yunus to come. That was right after his Nobel Prize. And there was a big fiesta with music around us, and we were still on the table discussing. And the name of the guy here, Daniel Carasso, he's an essential part of what Danone is. He's the guy who created Danone as an international company in Spain decades and decades ago. When that conversation took place, Daniel Carasso was more than 100 years old. Taking the good yogurt every morning, don't forget that. 100-year-old, and he's an incredible entrepreneur. Just a couple of years before, he was in China visiting me and discussing about business issues and how could we change this and this, etc. How much are you paid to do this? And Yunus is writing, oh, the same salary as government banks. But what is the lowest salary that you have in your bank? And the answer is $120 per month. That's the lowest salary. But are you a profitable bank? Yes, profit in 2006 was $25 million. But who are the owners? Oh, borrowers are the owners. And they buy shares and, of their bank. But how long have you been the CEO of this bank? And you write, CEO 1976. And at the end there was so much music. I remember that, I was with them. There's so much music, and all the young people were dancing around, etc. And so Yunus says, I'll bring a briefing note for you. And that was the end of the conversation. That briefing note never existed, because Yunus never writes briefing notes. At least not with us. But also because Daniel Carasso passed away quite soon afterwards. But we had started the work anyway. And there was like 4 musketeers. You see here Franck Ribou, our chairman on the right, Mohamed Yunus, Jay Naidoo, who is the South African guy, an ex-minister and friend of Nelson Mandela. He's running GAME, the GAME Alliance. And also he's the chairman of the African Development Bank. So we started. And we had a simple idea. Let's start a social business. A business where Danone and Grameen together would sit, build a business that would solve complex issues, malnutrition issues, developmental poverty issues in rural Bangladesh. We didn't know quite exactly what idea it was going to be, but we knew that because it was going to be a social business, we would be able to bring many people around the table, demilitarizing a zone of discussion of co-creation for NGOs, for authorities altogether. The next big idea says, Mohamed Yunus has a plan. He wants to save the world 1 cup of yogurt at a time, and he calls this social business enterprise. Well, don't trust what Fortune says if you ever read Fortune, because the truth is we had no clue at that point in time whether it would work or whether it wouldn't work. There was a very nice article, and they had come to the opening of the factory, and etc. That was another big fiesta. But the real work only started there. We had to design the smallest cup of yogurt you could find in the world, the smallest yogurt, but also the most powerful one, because we had to charge it with 50% of recommended daily allowances for the kids in Bangladesh in iron, zinc, iodine, vitamin A, vitamin E, and calcium, which made it just untasteable. So it took us 6 months, reworking with our suppliers, with NGOs, etc., to be able to come up with that. But that was only the easiest part of it. The most complex part was that we wanted that community-based business to transform the lives of people around the factory. So there's no question of building a huge factory as we do. We had to design a factory that was 300 times smaller than any of our regular factories. That in capex would be not more than $1 million, whereas our biggest factories would be anywhere between $300 and $500 million. So we reworked entirely the reverse engineering into this factory to build it as a micro factory that would serve only a community around, the villages around, to make it absolutely local and make sure that we could, at the end of the day, have a multi-local community business. We linked very poor farmers to that business. We proposed to unemployed, unprivileged ladies in the villages around to become entrepreneurs, to distribute and sell the yogurts in the villages door to door with an isothermic bag. And that's how it all started, and that continues. Today, we have 100,000 yogurts every morning going out of the factory. We are extending that factory to a bigger size, and the growth is gradually coming. But as I said about fortune, that takes a lot of time. Tremendous amount of sweat and trials and errors are, as Owen was saying earlier today, immense number of trial and errors and trial and errors, and we try and succeed and then go step by step. That was inspiring enough for us to say, let's be a bigger movement. We call it Danone Communities. And that's going to be a social business fund that will replicate that kind of model in many other countries. We went to Cambodia to start a water access model where we operate very local factories, tiny factories, $10,000 for the investment in the factory to get proper access to water for the people of Cambodia. We have 60 villages now. Another one would be Laiterie du Berger in Senegal, settling the cattle raisers, the nomadic cattle raisers in the northern part of Senegal to create the only locally sourced yogurt business, because most of the milk in Senegal is actually skim milk powder being imported. So we're basically creating a sustainable supply for agriculture here and growing in Senegal, because after we joined them, the brand has been growing 5 times. It's actually growing very fast these days, and that will be, that will be the first profitable social business that we have. This year, starting in August, it's been breaking even in EBITDA, and next year will be a full year positive EBITDA in Senegal. Another one would be Nandi Water, which is a unique model that we have in India, where we have partnered with the Nandi Foundation, government and donors, and local entrepreneurs to run operations, or again, very small factories with reverse osmosis bringing drinking water to 400 villages. 4 years from now, it should be sustainable from a financial standpoint. Our plan is in the next 3 years to scale up from 400 to 1,000 micro plants, and we will by then provide access to water for 6 million people. I have a number of other examples that I won't go through, but today, Danone Communities is a network of 10 projects in 7 countries, and we are growing that number of projects and growing the projects themselves, one after the other. It's a community-based business, as I said, which is really leveraging the power of people to take care of themselves. As soon as you provide the minimum requirements for them to be able to do that. It's also a very collaborative model where many employees of Danone have actually been financing themselves on a voluntary basis some of these actions. Several thousands of them have been doing that. People coming from competition, people from Nestlé are joining us, people from Cargill, people from McCain, people from Mars are joining us trying to solve these issues. Because social business is pre-competitive. There is no competition. There is no money to be made here. So, yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Profit is divided, but the social value is actually assembling people and unifying people around the same goal. So whether they're competitors or not, our union are working with us on this. So it's an incredible aggregation of energy of people to try to solve the most complex issues that, as a business, we are facing. Many partnerships that have also transformed the way we work with them, but I can tell you as well, has transformed the way they work as philanthropies, foundations, NGOs, that are challenged in their own thinking about how aggregating energies and competencies with a big company that knows a lot about how business is, technical competencies, organizational competencies, strategy, business strategy, marketing, distribution, that changes also the way these people are working. And that's part of, I think, the global energy that we have behind all of this. That Danone Communities adventure has led us to go into new horizons. we actually created two other social innovation funds. One is a €100 million fund that we asked all our shareholders to vote on in 2009 to invest in the employment ecosystem of Danone. So the 700,000 families that work informally around Danone, the farmers, the distributors, the street vendors, the scavengers that work on PET recycling. Just 1 second on this. We went to see our shareholders. We are a listed company. We have more American shareholders, by the way, than French shareholders. And so we have the same shareholders as anybody else. And we spent months to try to convince them that this would be a good idea for us to take €100 million outside of our profits and put it and invest it in the ecosystem of Danone. And that was in the middle of the financial crisis. We had, the credit market was down, the banking market was sort of closed, the stock market was down 40%, and guess what? 98% of our shareholders said yes. So here are the shareholders of a big, and we're like a €40 billion market cap company. They're all the Alliance, Fidelity, and Capital, and Templeton, and whoever you name it, CalPERS, and others. They were there, and they all said yes. So my lesson to that was, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the reason when the CEOs, my colleagues, are saying, yes, but I have my quarterly, of the financial analyst, financial market, the diktat of the financial market, that's all true. I agree with that. We have the same. So I know the story. But that does not preclude the fact that you can get things if you are really deeply convinced that you should do them. It's a matter of how much risk I'm prepared to do, how much risk I'm prepared to take to get that reality to work. And another fund that we created is actually working on carbon credit mechanisms, where we're working upstream our natural ecosystems, in water management, in agroforestry. We're working on anti-erosion programs. And again, that's a very creative one in which a lot of companies have now joined us. Other companies have joined us to continue to grow that whole model. It's transforming the way we work. And for instance, we are adjusting our governance because of these things. We are adjusting our governance by creating a social responsibility committee at the board level, which has the same responsibility on the social side that the audit committee has on the financial side. We have adjusted our compensation model. As the vice chairman of the board last year, the weight in my bonus was the same for achieving the carbon footprint reduction target for the year, which was a 6% reduction for the year, and achieving the operating profit for Danone last year, which was about €3 billion. So these numbers, these two objectives, had exactly the same weight in my bonus. So we're simply, and when I say my, 1,500 managers of Danone, the top managers, are incentivized on the 3-tier system this way. So there's no doubt that it transforms each of us, because it allows us to really focus in a different manner on what is at stake when we're talking about business. And I've come to the point where I think that business will die if we continue to say the business of business is business. If we continue to say that the role of a company is to maximize shareholders' value. The truth is that the role of a company is to serve a greater purpose. I could even say that the ultimate value of a business is the profit that it agrees not to make. Because this is where you really invest in the social value that you create. Any kind of profit I consent not to make consciously because I want to invest one way or the other in the social value of the company is actually building the long-term value, the long-term usefulness, the existence of our own business. So I guess I'm here to say there is no system. We like to think that there is a system because it allows us to sleep at night, basically. It allows us to say there is economic on one side and there is social on the other side. The truth is that they are the two sides of the same coin. We have chosen to look at it in a separate manner. But I've challenged many people to tell me where is the economy and where is the social side, where is the public and the private side. If I am asking my children to clean up the table, I'm saying that's family, that's not a business. But if they don't do it and I have to pay someone to do it, then that's a business and that's economy. That's bullshit. The truth is, we are in a situation where we spend our days in relationships which are microeconomic transactions. Whether they are monetized or not monetized, valued or not valued, is another problem. But economy is just the basis of the fact that we exchange, that we are people that are related one to the other. And if we say that there is a system that truly says on one side you have one thing and on the other side you have another thing, I'm telling you, if you are in a traffic jam, who should you accuse? Are you in a traffic jam or are you the traffic jam? If I agree that I'm taking my car, it's empty, and there are a bunch of other people that do the same, and that's an experience I had. I am the traffic jam. Why should I blame my neighbor? Why should I blame the guy, just in front of me? He's made the same decision I have. So I compromised. I agreed with this compromise. So I'm responsible for this. And ultimately, I think this limit between what I take and what I give, the way I behave, is nowhere else than in the middle of myself, in the middle of my consciousness. And I've come gradually, when I breathe in these places, inside myself, I've come gradually to the conclusion that I couldn't expect to change the world if I was not going to move that limit that I have, to move that line between what I take and what I get inside myself. And that's the personal journey that I think is probably, for me, very selfish, in a very selfish manner. That's probably the most important one, because that's the one that, hopefully helps me go day by day after each day in the journey of my life. The transformation that we're going through is basically a transformation of the people. There is nothing else than the people at the end of the day. We need help to continue to transform ourselves. So if, by any chance, any of your journeys, personal journeys, was crossing ours, I would be more than happy. Thank you.